Hey guys, this is Jennifer, and this is the Jennifer Allwood Show, the podcast where you learn how to create a beautiful home and build a creative business. Grab a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot in the house, and let's chat. I'm excited you're here. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm super excited to be here again with you today. And today we're talking about how to fight discouragement in both life and business. But you know, I love my fellow entrepreneurs and creatives. And so I'm always kind of coming from that angle. But literally, I think this podcast will apply to anyone who listens to it, whether you've got a business or not. And so we're going to talk about discouragement today and how to fight it, because I think there are seasons where, if we're honest, we all feel discouraged and we all feel like, Jesus, anything I'm doing, is it making a difference? Is it worth it? Does this matter? Do I matter? I think there's times that we all feel discouraged. And I think it's key to know that while we may go through hours and days, maybe short seasons of encouragement or discouragement, that it's okay to have short seasons of that, but to not get stuck there. And so I've got a couple of practical ways for you today to fight discouragement that we're going to talk about in just a second. But first, I want to thank the Little Brown Farmhouse, because she left me a fantastic review on iTunes about the podcast. And here's what she said. She said, I just listened to your podcast about rebranding and the podcast about becoming an affiliate. I'm a painter. Happy for you, Little Brown Farmhouse. I love painting, but I don't have the time or capacity to have a storefront. Amen, sister. These podcast episodes opened my eyes to the fact that I don't need a storefront to make money. I just need to get creative. And I just want to say, yay you, Little Brown Farmhouse. I mean, that makes me so excited that one, that you're listening, but two, that you're learning, and that three, you're feeling freedom to run your business and to operate the way that is best for you and fits your life. So that's awesome. And so for those of you who are listening, if you could leave us a review over on iTunes, of course, only if it's good. I mean, if you have, some negative things to say, you might as well just scroll on by. But if you could leave us a positive review over on iTunes, it helps so much in getting great podcast sponsors and in the ratings on iTunes. And I would be just so appreciative. And if you do leave me a review, screenshot it and send it to me in an Instagram DM, would you? Because I would love just to be able to send you a video reply back with a thank you. So I do appreciate that. So we are going to talk about discouragement today and how to fight it. So here's what I want to talk to you about. There are two different things I think that are key for us in fighting discouragement, because there are going to be times when discouragement comes. And I wanted to bring up one of my favorite quotes by a guy named Jim Rohn, who's a motivational speaker. I did not realize that he was one of Tony Robbins' early mentors. I had no idea. So Jim Rohn has a saying that I'm sure a lot of you have heard, which is that we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So I've put this very saying on my Facebook page many, many times. And so I want to really dig deep into that and talk about how when it comes to discouragement, I think we really need to look at who are we hanging out with? Who are we hanging out with? Because the truth is, the people that we are hanging out with the most are going to have the most impact on us and how we are behaving. The 5 people that you spend the most time with, whether it's, I think, in real life, or I'm going to be brazen enough to just say online, they will affect the decisions that you make, your thinking process. They will affect your self-esteem. Think about how, I'm thinking of there's some social media sites that I follow. And there's some social media sites that I've had to unfollow because I didn't like how they made me feel. And so if you are noticing kind of that pattern of when you're listening to things, when you're watching things on social media, and you're getting that little twinge in the pit of your belly, you know what I'm talking about. Those are great signs to go ahead and unfollow, unlike, unwhatever those accounts, because you are being influenced every single day, my friends, not only with the people that you're with in real life, but the people that you are following on social media. Do not think for one single second that just because it's online that it doesn't count, because it does. It does. Okay. So when you're thinking about the 5 people that you spend the most time with, you honestly, you will start to pick up each other's slang and speech habits a little bit. It's funny. My best friend when I was in high school was a girl named Rachel, and still one of my very nearest and dearest friends today. Just absolutely love her to death. And Rachel has a very distinct way of talking. And when I hang out with her for any amount of time, my kids will say, "Oh my gosh, you're talking just like Rachel." And I'll be like, "No, I'm not. She's talking like me." But I know her family has said the same thing. "You're talking like Jennifer." And she's like, "No, she's not. Jennifer's talking like me." You pick up the stuff of those people that you're with. Even things like eating habits. Like if I go to lunch with a group of girlfriends who are ordering salads and they're getting dressing on the side, and hold the cheese and croutons, please, and skip the bread basket, and I'll take seltzer water. And then I'm rolling up and ordering a chicken fettuccine with a margarita on the side and extra bread basket. I mean, I wouldn't do that, because we start to change and adapt based on who we're with. And so if you are someone who is feeling discouraged, babe, you got to look at your closest five. You've got to understand the importance of the company that you are keeping, because the people who are around you matter so much. I love the saying, "Show me your friends and I'll show you your future." I used to only think about that in terms of like my kids, right? Because I've heard that saying in the context of like talking about teenagers and things. So show me your friends and I'll show you your future. But I would also like to take that one step further and say, show me your friends and I'll show you a future, even for an entrepreneur, even for a grown-up. And so I think when we're looking at the people that we spend the most time with, we will be the average of them physically. Like, do the five that you spend the most time with, do they take care of their temples? Their temples meaning their body. Do they take care of themselves? Do they eat well? Do they work out? Do they talk about themselves kindly? Do they have good habits, with their body? You are the average of the five people you spend the most time with on an emotional level. Are you hanging out with a lot of people who emotionally are broken? They're just fractured human beings. They are wounded. They are offended individuals, because if so, you will pick up on that. You are the average of the five people that you spend the most time with on a spiritual level. So if you're someone who's thinking, gosh, I really wish that I could, grow in my walk with the Lord. I wish I could learn more about the Bible. I wish I could, be brazen enough to start talking about my faith in my business or something. Well, look at who you're hanging out with, because if you're not hanging out with people who don't separate life and faith, it's going to be harder for you. You're the average of the five people you spend the most time with, financially even. There are studies that show that if you look at the people you spend the most time with, like in your friend group, and I would probably say this doesn't maybe work for the online space, but in real life, that you will be the average financially of the income levels that are in the group. And so I think it's fascinating if you'll just kind of look at things through this lens. And of course, it's not like a hard, cut and dried situation, but it should help you to think about, okay, are there people here in my circle who maybe I need to quit hanging out with so much? I was talking to someone a while back about guarding our confidence and just how important it is to guard our confidence, because the world is going to tell us we're never going to be enough. We don't look like enough. We're never going to have enough. I mean, it doesn't take long if you want to go scroll through, Instagram to feel like my house isn't pretty enough. I'm never going to have those abs. I'll probably never make that much money, and to end up feeling lesser than, right? And so find people to hang out with who are going to challenge you, who are going to raise the bar for you and pull you up to that level. Okay. I was talking a while back with one of my kiddos, and both my boys are playing football this year. And so I was talking to them about how when I used to triathlon just a few years ago, I can remember feeling like I wasn't quite sure where I fit in training, because I am not what I would consider an athlete. Am not in fantastic shape. I was in much better shape 5 years ago than I am now. Let's just say that. But still, we'd go to triathlon practice, and there would be just some I mean, my friend Shauna, she teaches fitness for a living, you guys. So that girl's out running 8.5-minute miles, and I'm back, a mile behind her sucking air thinking, good Lord, I can't keep up. So it would kind of break out into this natural segmentation when we went to triathlon training of the women that I would consider to be, really fit and more serious athletes and very competitive. And then there would kind of be another group of maybe the people who are just beginning, maybe the fitness level wasn't quite as high. They were not people who, they were just at a different level physically. And, maybe they had injuries, maybe they just were older, what have you. So there would be two sections of athletes. And as God has done for most of my life, I would fit right in the middle. I would just be so average. If you guys have not seen the blog post that I wrote on being average, I'm going to put it in the show notes. So if you go to jenniferallwood.com and look for the show notes for episode 81 on discouragement, you'll see that article there. But so I would fall right in the middle because I'm like, okay, I'm not a beginner and I'm in decent shape, but yet I can't keep up with the Shaunas of the world. So where do I train? It was always the conundrum of where do I train? Because if I train with the one group, I'm going to feel like a rock star because I'm going to finish kind of at the top of that group. If I train with the other group, I'm always going to be a mile behind, sucking air and never feeling like I can keep up. So what do? Listen, friends, I challenge you to train with the people you can't keep up with, to do life with the people you can't keep up with, to hang out with the entrepreneurs who seem like they are miles ahead of you. Listen, if you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. Some of you are hanging out with the wrong people because it makes you feel better than. It makes you feel like you're kind of ahead on the curve. It makes you feel a little bit superior, and you're afraid to leave that group because you're not sure if you're going to fit in elsewhere. And so I challenge you to quit hanging out with people who are not pulling you up and raising the bar on your own life. I challenge you to get out of the rooms that you're the smartest person in the room and put yourself intentionally on purpose in a room with people smarter than you who will help pull you up. You will be the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. If you are hanging out with people who are consistently, talking of gloom and doom, who are very negative, who are gossips, who are constantly complaining, who are, discouraging, if you're hanging out with those people, it will rub off on you. And it's no wonder that you are discouraged. I want to just take this one step further here before we get off this subject of being the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. But sometimes those gloom and doom, negative, gossipy, complaining people may live right inside the walls of our home. You may very well be married to one. Can I just suggest to you that if this is a situation that you find yourself a really good counselor, that you find yourself a really good therapist? This is not the case for me personally in my home. Mr. Magic is always upbeat and never a gloom and doom type of personality. But I have been in counseling, you guys, and have made absolutely no apologies for it for 4 years. For 4 years, I have got a fantastic therapist. And listen, what we talk about is business every time that I meet with her, because we can't separate our business worlds. I'm saying this to my entrepreneur friends, from our personal lives. And it is so hard running a business that if there is someone within the walls of your home who is really making you feel bad about the business that you are trying to run and who is really feeding into that discouragement that you're feeling, I encourage you to talk to a good counselor. If you need a good counselor, I'll share the name and number of mine. Feel free to send us an email. You can send it to info@jenniferallwood.com, and I am happy to share the information for my therapist who does online consultations. So protect your own confidence, my friends. This is one good way in fighting discouragement, is protecting your own confidence by protecting the group of people that you're hanging out with. Okay, so that's one way to fight discouragement. The other way that I want to talk to you about, if you're someone who is feeling discouraged about life, about business, about your future. So number one, we talked about, looking at the people you're spending the most time with. But number two, I want you to learn how to put on blinders. I want you to learn how to put on blinders. The other day, I talked about this on my Facebook page, and oh my gosh, you guys, it has gone bonkers to over 70,000 people or something crazy like that. Because I talked about horses. And I talked about how horses wear blinders. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but like imagine the movie Secretariat. Horse races wear blinders. They're also called blinkers. In fact, I think blinkers might be the formal term, but I'm not a horse person, so I don't even know. But we're going to call them blinders. So listen, horses wear blinders. They're the things that go right by their eyes so that they can't see to the side. And so they can't see to like behind them. Like it blocks their peripheral vision. And the reason that they put blinders on horses is so that the horses will focus on what's right in front of them. Because if the horse is peeking at what's beside or behind them, the horse can get tripped up. So let's take this into people terms, okay? Some of you are possibly feeling discouraged because you are comparing yourself to where you're at, to the people that you see on Instagram. You're comparing yourself and your business to the people that you're maybe in a Facebook group with. You're comparing yourself to your competitor. You keep creeping on her Facebook page and seeing what she's doing. You don't follow or like her page, but you're creeping on it, and you end up leaving feeling one of two ways. Ladies, come on, I'm talking to you. If you are someone who's peeking at your competitors, I want you to stop, because here's why. You're either going to, you're going to look at her stuff online and be like, ooh, I am doing good. Dang, look at me. Like she's not doing a whole lot. Like I am doing amazing. And you end up leaving with this feeling of superiority. And the Bible talks about how pride comes right before a fall. So you do not want to be looking at somebody's page and walk away going, yep, I am all that in a bag of chips, because that is the surest way to find your way going downhill really quickly. And second, you don't want to look at her page and be like, oh goodness, wow, she's kicking butt. I suck. Dang, she's amazing. Wow, I feel lesser than. Because then you're just feeding your own discouragement. Listen, this is how I want to relate the horses and discouragement. All right. If you will put on invisible blinders, my friends, and focus so hard on your own lane and the strategy that the Lord himself has given you. And if you will focus on what's right ahead of you and stay in your lane and quit looking at other people's lives and thinking that you need to change and being influenced with the way you're doing things, if you will start to just focus at only your stuff, it will help so much get over that sense of discouragement. Because here's what happens. We'll look at someone's home on Pinterest and we'll end up walking away from that thinking, I need a full-blown remodel. We'll look at someone's Instagram story and we'll be like, well, now I need to go to the Bahamas. We'll look at somebody's Facebook page and think, wow, they got 2,000 live viewers on that Facebook Live and I can't get 20. And it feeds that sense of discouragement. Listen, I love the saying by Stephen Furtick, and I don't have it right in front of me. It's not in my notes, but it's something to the effect of, don't compare your middle to someone else's highlight reel, because the majority of people online, my friends, are only showing their highlight reels. They're not showing what's going on behind the scenes. They're not showing the fact that they may have tons and tons of followers, but they're still not making any money. They're not showing the fact that their house looked perfect for that Pinterest picture, but it is a natural disaster the other 6.5 days out of the week. They're not showing the fact that everything looks really put together online, but they are feeling just as discouraged on the inside, and their life could be falling apart and you don't even know it. Listen, if you are discouraged, I want you to put on pretend blinders. Stop looking at other people's stuff. Take a break from social media if you have to. You know, Jason and I just got back. And I say Jason, and then I get messages from you guys. Who's Jason? Okay, Mr. Magic to you. But we just took a family vacation with the kids, and it was lovely. We were gone for 11 days, most of them out of the country on a cruise. It was absolutely wonderful. And several of those days, I did not have internet access. And what a nice break, not only for me, but just for my family, to have mom really disconnected for a while. So take a sabbatical. Your business isn't going to fall apart if you take a few days off. Have somebody do a couple Facebook posts for you or schedule them to get done, and take a sabbatical from social media. Or only look at your own social media accounts for posting and stay off everybody else's for a while. When you're feeling discouraged, you have got to fight for your own, what do I want to say? Like your own breakthrough. You've got to fight to like get yourself out of that pit. Peeking at other people, looking at what everybody else is doing, comparing your life to theirs is one of the surest ways to lead to discouragement. It's one of the surest ways. So my friends, I encourage you just to put on those virtual blinders, keep your eyes on your race, your eyes straight ahead of you on the race that God's put before you, and focus only on that. So I hope that that's helpful. I was thinking just about several people. I get so many emails and private messages from you guys. And listen, it just blesses my socks off every time I do. And when I hear sometimes of people being discouraged, I feel like it's my job. It's my responsibility to try to give you guys some practical tips to help you out of that. I have gone through my own seasons of discouragement. There are times when it's easy to think, it's always going to be this way. What I'm doing doesn't matter. Everybody's against me. Those feelings, I think, are natural for everyone, but the key is just not staying there. So I hope that these 2 tips, looking at the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and number 2, putting on your blinders so that you focus only on your lane, will help you when it comes to those seasons of discouragement. So if this was useful for you today, would you just do me a blessing and just share this with some precious woman who may need to hear it, who may need some help in getting out of her own season of discouragement? Would you just share this with someone on social? It can be on Instagram. It can be on Facebook. I don't care where it is, but I do just appreciate you so much taking the time to listen and taking the time to share. So, and don't forget, if you leave us a review over on iTunes, screenshot that to me, send it to me on Instagram, and I'll send you a little video message back. Okay. All right, my friend, bless you. Thank you so much for being here. And until next week, stay creative. Bye-bye. Hey friend, thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. I'm so honored that you're here and that you just listen week in and week out, and that you share the Jennifer Allwood Show with your friends and family. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, or if you're an Android user, go download the Stitcher app and you can subscribe there so that you know every single week when a new episode releases. Also, if you have any time to leave us a review, these reviews are super important in getting guests for the show and sponsors for the show. And so we'd appreciate it if you have just a second to leave us a review. That would be amazing. Thank you guys again for being here. And until next week, stay creative.